Did you just boot my stroller?
Nicholas Wilde, you are under arrest.
For what? Hurting your free wings?
Felony tax evasion. Yeah, $200 a day, 365 days a year. Since you were 12, that's 2 decades, so times 20, which is 1,460,000, I think. I mean, I am just a dumb bunny, but we are good at multiplying.
Oh my.
Zootopia. Now here's a movie that I've been waiting to talk about for a long while. I've watched this movie several times since its first release in theaters, and no matter how many times I've seen it, I've never gotten enough of it. At this point in time, it's my personal favorite movie of 2016, and my second favorite Disney movie behind Beauty and the Beast. No, not that one. But over time, the movie has been resonating with me much more strongly than when it first came out for obvious reasons. In a world dominated by anthropomorphic animals, Judy Hopps is a free-spirited rabbit who dreams of becoming the first bunny cop. Sure enough, she's pushed herself to succeed and becomes the world's first bunny cop and is assigned to Zootopia, a city where animals of all walks of life live together in harmony. Or so it seems. Feeling underestimated by her department, Judy asks to take on a really tough case involving the disappearance of several Predator citizens. In order to solve the case, she'll have to cooperate with Nick Wilde, who is obviously not interested in helping. The two end up traveling to different corners of the city to unfold clues of the mystery, which leads to some unexpected twists and some very unexpected development, not just for Zootopia's society, but for the world at large. Now Judy and Nick have to put their differences aside in order to solve the case and bring peace to Zootopia before the situation gets any worse. The first thing that you'll notice about the movie is that its animation is absolutely phenomenal. This film is packed with so many stunning visuals, and they clearly put a lot of time in getting every last detail down precisely. Not just in the lighting and the textures of the animals, but also with how much they had to work with. They had to create an entire population of dozens of different animals from all sorts of different angles, camera speeds, and views where they needed to get every single aspect of each species down correctly. Knowing that they were able to handle so much at one time throughout the movie proves that they put a lot of care into making it look beautiful. All of the different colors also mesh together very well, and they don't even overlap each other. And aside from that, they do very well with the details. The hair, teeth, skin, clothes, and fur of each animal is very spot on. They even appropriately capture how each animal moves differently when they're walking or running. It's a level of detail like this that makes the visuals of the film really astounding. The design of the world is also magnificent. It seems like a simple laid-back world during the first 10 minutes, which is meant to help the viewer progressively get used to the style that it's going for. And when they finally decide that it's time to show you Zootopia, it's timed just right. The sense of wonder and inspiration that you feel when you first see this place and how you enter it is just so captivating. It's one of my favorite scenes in all of Disney. The city is huge, with different landscapes combined and being shot in a way that really captures the size and the scope. They put time in showing how different aspects and districts of the city work so that each animal can properly adapt to their habitat. And they show different themes and ideas that give the city a more creative edge and a ton of variety. They show how different animals have different modes of transportation, snack bars that are designed for several animals of different heights and sizes, and in later parts of the movie, we see how everything about the world was created with every sort of animal in mind. There's an entire portion of the city built for small rodents with its own train system. Tundra Town uses snow machines to keep its environment appropriately cold for its citizens. The Rainforest District uses a sprinkler system to keep the plant life fresh and healthy. Even the Sahara District has a rough terrain to help simulate its landscape and a lake which is probably used to keep animals hydrated. Zootopia also has a nice way of mixing modern civilization with plant life throughout several corners of the city. Not just outdoors, but indoors as well. There's grass, trees, large leaf plants, plants that grow off of chandeliers, and all of them mold very well with the solid construction of the buildings. It's a nice way to combine these two elements that help it feel like a civilized jungle. But the visuals and designs aren't the only good things about Zootopia. You've also got the story, the characters, and the themes. Judy is a very profound protagonist, and her personality as well as her actions throughout the film resonate very strongly with its narrative and themes. She starts out as a highly optimistic and determined child driven by her inspiration, and when faced with a threat, she's not afraid to stand up for herself. As she grows up, she becomes driven to prove herself in a world that's constantly underestimating her, and she never lets anything slow her down. She appropriately takes people's doubts inherent into stride and turns it around into something that can boost her confidence. She's also very clever in how she takes her time to think about a situation in order to come out on top. She's always pushing herself to overcome obstacles, but she doesn't use the same methods. She approaches each situation differently, using a strategy as well as a sense of patience. And throughout the movie, she, unlike everyone else, is willing to see past appearances and stand against prejudice. Or so it seems. There's a very smart hidden depth within this character that ties into the theme, which I will be getting to later. Nick is the type of guy that you'd probably think would be dislikable throughout the film, and at first he may seem like that. Fortunately, he acts as a very great foil for Judy and is pretty charismatic. He usually acts egocentric and has a pessimistic outlook on how things work, but when he does make a remark against someone, he actually brings up good points. He doesn't just make stuff up to make himself look better, he actually sees the reality of a situation and turns a conversation into his favor by using it. His trolling of Judy is fairly well-rounded too. It's executed with an innocent sense of humor that keeps it from being repetitive. He also has an intriguing sense of sarcasm, and it's timed very well when it's used. What makes his attitude tolerable is that it never becomes too mean-spirited, and there's more depth to his character when we see how he got treated as a child. It affected his outlook on trying to be something that you can be due to his new belief that nothing that one does will ever change how the world sees you. And he's developed a sense of self-awareness that he needs to survive using that philosophy. It would have been easy to just make him a loner and a jerk, but he does warm up to Judy and opens up to her while still retaining a snarky wit. The friendship between the two is fairly well paced. Their bond grows in a progressive state that helps move the story forward without grinding it to a halt for some sappy speech about how one of them feels. They spend just enough time together to showcase a realistic and organic trust within each other, but also recognizing in which areas that their companionship needs to be tested, which once again resonates very strongly with the movie's themes. So with all of this mentioning of the movie's themes, I should get to what I really love about this movie. Not just for what it is, but for how Disney handles it. Prejudice and racism. Disney actually decided to make a movie about how different races hate on each other, and they certainly don't shy away from it. A lot of the movie seems to narrate on how society feels its need to split itself up between groups, and how very few individuals are searching for a compromise. At first it may seem that the movie is going to be preachy and hit you over the head with this way too much. But thankfully the story is so well paced and puts just as much focus on other elements that are important to developing the story that it never becomes an issue. It's told in a relative way that anyone of any age, of any perspective can understand. It can even be understood by little kids who might be watching this, since the presentation isn't done in a way that's too complex. And what really works about it is that it always finds a middle ground and never becomes one-sided. It would have been very annoying if it was just one side is bad and one side is good, because it would have made the subject extremely one-note. But the film makes it so much more realistic and tolerable by showing how mean-spirited and how cruel that both sides can be. What makes it resonate even stronger is that not just the background characters, but the main characters and supporting characters have their own prejudice as well. Even Judy Hopps is shown to be capable of just being as prejudiced as everyone else. She keeps telling herself that she's not prejudiced like everyone else, but there's plenty of hints where she has her own suspicions and her own insecurities towards prey. She feels the need to carry around fox repellent despite that she previously stated that she didn't need it. And when confronted by Nick at the end of the second act, she actually contemplates using it. This could be seen as Judy being a hypocrite, but this leads into one of the movie's strongest steps. If anyone can be anything, then anyone can be prejudice. The truth that the movie brings up is that every single one of us has our own sense of prejudice, and that we could act on them at any given moment. No one is immune to feelings of prejudice, and under the right circumstances, we will naturally act upon them accordingly. That is extremely brilliant writing. It's the kind of writing that makes the audience actually step back and really think about themselves in some form. And it's done in a very subtle fashion, which even gives more meaning to some of the movie's more popular lines.
We may be evolved, but deep down, we are still animals.
There's also a particular scene in the movie that resonates a really good subtlety. The City of Fear is easily the most gripping moment in the film, capturing a true sense of hopelessness in the contents of the events and how there actually may not be an answer to solving this problem. The tone of the music and the way that it's paced really sucks you into the sorrow and uncertainty of what's happening, how it's causing the city to split into two even more so than before. And the fact that there's no answer to why this is happening makes it even more scary. One really well hidden depth about this scene is the reporters. You can only imagine how much pressure this was putting on the snow leopard reporter. She had to make reports about how her kind are becoming vicious and how others are losing trust in them. And yet the moose reporter working with her still trusts her enough to sit directly next to her. That is a very smart piece of writing for something that's presented as a background element. And later on, Finnick answers Judy's knocks on his door with aggravation wielding a baseball bat, like he was about to use it to defend himself. It's like the situation has gotten so chaotic that both sides are starting to get violent with each other. Even if all this stuff is never explored, it's still a very believable result of all this discord, and it's an interesting implication to consider. Seeing what's become of Zootopia due to her carelessness, Judy realizes just how vulnerable she is. Despite being smart and resourceful, she doesn't fully think things through. All this time she really believed she was going to make a difference, but reality hits her hard and she comes to understand that all this time she was an oblivious rabbit who was foolishly following her dreams. She actually ends up giving up on everything she worked for, and it's pretty sad to watch. All of that hard work and dedication only to discourage herself into thinking she doesn't deserve it. But with the right information provided to her, she realizes that there's a way to set everything right. She goes back to Nick and admits that she wasn't as smart as she first thought, and he decides to forgive her because despite everything that's happened, they still had such a nice thing going, and it would be bad for him to just give up on that. This is where Judy learns that admitting to your flaws is the first step in overcoming them, and it makes sense for her to do this now when it's most important for her to realize it. Nick sees this honesty coming from a place that he can admire despite that he was never as honest with her, which helps reassure that he made the right choice in warming up to her. It really shows just how strong and well developed the relationship between these two was. The mystery aspect of the film is exceedingly well done. Everything about how it's paced and handled is intelligent, and the clues come from a believable and logical place. Nothing ever feels like it just comes out of nowhere, and it actually keeps you guessing as to what's going to happen next during your first viewing. And it even has really good comedy. Despite mostly focusing on the world, the mystery, and the growth of the characters, it does a surprisingly well job mixing in humor. There's a lot of times where they get across some sarcastic banter and snarky conversations between the characters, and it's all done in an enjoyably humorous way. There's also some effective slapstick and a really great anti-humor scene involving the DMV. A great thing about all of these jokes is that none of them ever feel badly timed or dragged out, allowing them to feel more involved in the story. And the story itself is astonishingly paced. Not a single moment goes by too fast or too slow, and it always lets out the right amount of information at the right time. There's no filler, which keeps everything unfolding at a proper speed, and every single moment carries a sense of importance for both the plot development and the growth of the characters. But what I truly love about this movie probably doesn't have anything to do with the writing or the characters. What it is that this just might be the most original and refreshing film that Disney has ever done. Like, if you were never told that this was a Disney movie, you never would have guessed it. There's no dead parents, it's not based on a book or fairy tale, there's no princesses or royal family, the subject matter is one that you really wouldn't expect Disney to touch upon, it's not a musical, and many of the usual cliches that you would expect from a Disney movie are completely absent. Even the relationship between Judy and Nick is mostly established as a friendship, and any romantic connection between them is never shown. I'm willing to guess that this movie was a hardcore experiment by Disney to truly push the boundaries of what their animation company was capable of, to see what they can really do if they really wanted to make something unique and timeless. And without a doubt, they succeeded tremendously. I honestly cannot think of any way that this movie could have been done any better, except maybe expand upon its world a little bit more. Like, we could have seen more birds and reptiles functioning in the film, species of animals that are infamously known for being absent in the movie. Zootopia is an absolute marvel for both Disney and animation at large in every every possible way. The animation is amazing, the characters are great, the concept is brilliantly fleshed out, the mystery is engaging, the dialogue is organic and fluid, the humor is exceptionally funny, and its message, while relevant when it first came out, has only gotten stronger and more meaningful with time. If by some chance you haven't seen this movie yet, I highly encourage you to watch it. You won't regret it one bit. It is without a doubt one of the best, if not the best movie to come out in 2016. MisAnthro Pony, over and out.